This week we've been reading stories, and we will continue to read stories about trees and how animals depend on trees to live. They depend on trees for their food and for their shelter. We're going to be learning this week about how forests have different layers, different levels in the forest. And a great story for that is called The Great Kapok Tree. It's a wonderful book. I don't happen to have that book at home with me. It's back in my classroom, but I really want you guys to hear the story. So if you don't have a book handy anytime, you can always YouTube and see if you can find an author or a teacher who has read a story aloud. So that's what I want to do today. I'm actually going to be an audience member with you, and I'm going to listen along as we hear the story, The Great Kapok Tree. So let me share that with you. Get comfortable, cozy, and let's listen to the story, The Great Kapok Tree. Isn't it fun to hear the sounds of the animals in the forest? These are some of the animals that live in the rainforest.
The Great Kapok Tree, A Tale of the Amazon Rainforest by Lynn Cherry. Two men walked into the rainforest. Moments before, the forest had been alive with the sounds of squawking birds and howling monkeys. Now all was quiet as the creatures watched the two men and wondered why they had come. The larger man stopped and pointed to the Great Kapok Tree. Then he left. The smaller man took the axe he carried and struck the trunk of the tree. Whack, whack, whack. The sounds of the blows rang through the forest. The wood of the tree was very hard. Chop, chop, chop. The man wiped off his sweat that ran down his face and neck. Whack, chop, whack, chop. Soon the man grew tired. He sat down to rest at the foot of the Great Kapok Tree. Before he knew it, the heat and hum of the forest had lulled him to sleep. A boa constrictor lived in the kapok tree. He slithered down its trunk to where the man was sleeping. He looked at the gash the axe had made in the tree. Then the huge snake stood very close to the man and hissed in his ear. Senor.
Can you predict what's going to happen? Does that make you a little nervous? Can you imagine if you were the man? How would you feel?
This tree is a tree of miracles. It is my home, where generations of my ancestors lived.
What the snake is telling the man, generations of ancestors, that means many, many relatives for many, many years of the snake have lived there. So the snakes have lived there for many, many years.
Do not chop it down. A bee buzzed in the sleeping man's ear. Senor, my hive is in the kapok tree, and I fly from tree to tree and flower to flower collecting pollen. In this way, I pollinate the trees and flowers throughout the rainforest. You see, All living things depend on one another. A troop of monkeys scampered down from the canopy of the kapok tree. They chattered to the sleeping man. Senor, we have seen the ways of man. You chop down one tree, then come back for another and another. The roots of these great trees will wither and die, and there will be nothing left to hold the earth in place. When the heavy rains come, the soil will be washed away, and the forest will become a desert. A toucan, a macaw, and a cock-a-the-rock flew down from the canopy. Senor, squawked the toucan, you must not cut down this tree. We have flown over the rainforest and seen what happens once you begin to chop down the trees. Many people settle on this land. They set fires to clear the underbrush, and soon the forest disappears. Where once there was life and beauty, only black and smoldering ruins remain. A bright and small tree frog crawled along the edge of a leaf. In a squeaky voice, he piped in the man's ear. Senor, a ruined rainforest means ruined lives, many ruined lives. You will leave many of us homeless. You chop down this great kapok tree. A jaguar had been sleeping along the branch in the middle of the tree. Because his spotted coat blended into the dappled light and the shadows of the understory, no one had noticed him. Now he leapt down and headed silently over to the sleeping man. He growled in his ear. Senor, the kapok tree is home to many birds and animals. If you cut it down, where will I find my dinner? Four tree porcupines swung down from branch to branch and whispered to the man, Senor, do you know what we animals and humans need in order to live? Oxygen. And Senor, do you know what trees produce? Oxygen. If you cut down the forest, you will destroy that which gives us all life. Several anteaters.
So are you starting to see a pattern with all of the animals going to the man? I'm starting to make connections too. In writing, we've been learning about how to write opinion pieces. And really, this story is opinions where the animals, in their opinion, the tree should not be cut down. They're all giving the man, Senor, the reason why the tree should not be cut down, and they're giving evidence for why they believe the way they believe. How do you feel about it? Do you think the tree should be cut down, or should the tree be saved for all these animals? Can you even remember all the animals that have whispered in his ear?
Others climbed down the kapok tree with their young clinging to their backs. The unstriped anteater said to the sleeping man, Senor, you are chopping down this tree with no thought for the future. Surely you know that what happens tomorrow depends upon what you do today. The big man tells you to chop down a beautiful tree. He does not think of his own children, who tomorrow must live in a world without trees. A three-toed sloth had begun climbing down from the canopy when the men first appeared. Only now did she reach the ground. Plodding ever so slowly over to the sleeping man, she spoke in her deep and lazy voice. Senor, how much is beauty worth? Can you live without it? If you destroy the beauty of the rainforest, on what will you feast your eyes?
I love how slowly the sloth was speaking. It's good to show because that's how sloths move. Sloths move very slowly. So in reading the story, the person reading to us really used voice when reading and helped us understand that that's how sloths move, that's how they speak.
A child from the Yanomamo tribe who lived in the rainforest knelt over the sleeping man. He murmured in his ear, "Senor, when you awake, please look upon us all with new eyes." The man awoke with a start. Before him stood the rainforest child, and all around him, staring, were the creatures who depended upon the Great Kapok Tree. Wondrous and rare. The man looked about and saw the sun streaming through the canopy. Spots of bright light glowed like jewels amidst the darkening forest. Strange, beautiful plants seemed to dangle in the air, suspended from the Great Kapok Tree. The man smelled the fragrant perfume of their flowers. He felt the steamy mist rising from the forest floor, but he heard no sound, for the creatures were strangely silent. The man stood and picked up his axe. He swung back his arm as though to strike the tree. Suddenly, he stopped. He turned, looked at the animals, and tried.
What do you predict? Do you think he will cut the tree down or not?
He hesitated, then dropped the axe and walked out of the rainforest.
I really enjoyed listening to that story with you today. It makes me think about our own neighborhoods and the animals that live right here in our own neighborhoods. Do they depend on our trees? Should we be cutting our trees down? What I'd like you to do sometime this week, go outside, look around, look in the trees, look at what animals depend on our trees. And again, if there's ever a time you want to hear a story and you don't have that book handy, look it up on YouTube. I think you'd enjoy it.